inside the 18. I'm Michael Magid, live from Hollywood, California. After a lovely weekend of eating a lot of lobster tails, I ended up taking somebody else's lobster tail at a 65th birthday dinner that I was at. So shout out to my lovely stepmother, Alexis, for allowing me to go down there and get some food, which was absolutely amazing. With me, you know her as 99 World Cup winner, Pac-12 champion, Saskia Weber. Had to give you that shout out right there.
I love the new title. Thank you.
Well, hold on. Someone says playing music. Are we playing music right now? Are we going to play music for her? How do I get I think Omar wanted to do that. I got to get him a participation screen. No, I don't know. Someone just put that there. That wasn't you? No. Somebody just did that. Oh my gosh, guys, that's, as you know him, Pro GK Academy, Omar Zini, who I thought was trying to play music, making his triumphant return, Colorado Rapids goalkeeper coach Chris Sharpe. Sharpie, welcome back. And joining us for the first time, the one and only William Yarbrough, goalkeeper for the Colorado Rapids. Will, this is awesome, man. I'm excited that we can finally get somebody who can share all the wonderful experiences he had playing in Liga MX with Omar, who failed to make it to Liga MX. So,
of course, I'm excited.
God, Mike, you're so mean.
Well, you know what? After that pun that he dropped, I had to do something, right? Had to go into the roast.
I honestly was just saying something about Chris's haircut. I like this haircut. I wasn't trying to be funny. I was just like, this is haircut.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. Genuinely appreciate it.
No, I've seen all his different hairstyles, long hair, short hair, but looks good.
Oh man. Well, kind of before we get into today's topic, guys, we're actually going to be talking about effective goalkeeping today, which is a topic that's kind of been trending a lot out there in the social media boards. Some people out there might not kind of be familiar, Will, with kind of your journey, you know, from Liga MX, you know, to Colorado. I know off air, we were talking a little bit about the fact that this is literally your first time living in the States, and people looking at you would go, oh no, you're just making that up. But it's absolutely true, isn't it?
100%, man. Yeah, born and raised in Mexico. My parents have been down there since the early 80s. So born and raised down there. That's where I started playing, and that's where I've been playing my entire career until March last year.
That's something here that I think is just like really fascinating, because a lot of times, you know, we talk about dual nationals on this show, and we're generally a lot of the times we're referring to Europe when it comes to Americans. You know, we don't a lot of times get the situation, especially on the goalkeeping front, with Mexico and the United States and everything like that. And so what was kind of like, you know, again, like I said before we get into this topic, I think it's fascinating just talking to you. What were kind of like, you know, for lack of a better term, like there's very different goalkeeper cultures, you know, when it comes to Mexico and comes to the United States. Was that kind of like a culture shock for you, especially like that first US camp that you went to and all that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think from a cultural standpoint, the goalkeeper in Mexico has more of that South American style. I think it's definitely something that I noticed going into my first US camp, being up here for just a little over a year now, how different things are. And, you know, it's something that I kind of wish that I had seen earlier in the day. And I mean, Sharpie's done an excellent job just of helping me recognize small things that are very helpful to me as a keeper, that in Mexico, at the end of the day, it's more of just do what you got to do to avoid the ball going in. And I think that's a very South American concept that we have down there. And coming up here, it's a little more technical. And, you know, at the beginning, you don't understand it that much. But I've always been open to learning, and I love listening, and I love learning. I think every day is a good opportunity to learn something new. And for me, is just kind of realizing that small technical changes in what I do without changing who I am as a goalkeeper bring a tremendous difference at you know, at the time I have to respond. So I think it was definitely a culture shock for me going into my first camp and coming up here. but I'm more than grateful that it happened. It's never too late to learn something new, and it's just been a completely new experience, which I'm enjoying 100%.
Yeah,
like
go ahead, Omar.
Quick question for you, Chris. Getting someone like Will, then you obviously get COVID happening, and you kind of have like a pause in the your ability to communicate on the field. For you, any young coaches out there that are maybe getting a goalkeeper that has different background, and like we talk about the South American style and just different approaches, like how often do you guys communicate new techniques during the season, and how much of that is done in preseason? Do you ever have any time to do it during the season?
Last year, because of the gaps or the spread, so to speak, we had a little bit of time to do certain things. I mean, it wasn't easy. We had individual training where, the 4 guys were kicking balls off a rebounder for 3 months at a time, where, they could have killed me after, because it's all we could do. They would split the field into 4 and they would kick a ball off a rebounder, and I have to jump over hurdles and roll under things. And, and Will sitting right here, he was ready to kill me after 2 months of doing it, but that was what it was. To work on things, it was difficult. I'm part of the process, obviously getting Will out of the loan situation into being with us full time was so I could have him in pre-season, so we could work on things that Will talks about. Now, I think for me, a lot of it is on the field, because, you got to put that perspective into what you're seeing, what I'm seeing in Will, for example, to work on the field. You need that time. That time on the field is everything. Time on the grass is everything for that. But there is video. Will and I do a lot of it. We were constantly talking about things, constantly looking at things, taking pictures, even things that aren't related to us. We were talking yesterday about a goal, Manuel Neuer's goal against Mbappe on the weekend. I just told Will to take a peek at it. We talk about losing the top half of our body and our leanings and losing our hips and stuff like that. Constantly talking about things like that. So I think it's a balance between the two, on and off the field. But for me, going through things and looking at them on the field and talking about them on the grass and actually doing them, and Will's a person who wants to work on things all the time. That it's a big part of it for me. I think both of it. But I think the other part of it too is going back to what Mike said about the culture. For me, as his goalkeeper coach, I've got to look at what Will does well and not touch it, and say, this is going to work. I ain't touching this. But there are things in there that we can make even more effective than what he already does well. So there's probably 2 parts to that.
Saskia, I know for you, obviously, you had the same situation in regards to like COVID and everything like that with the collegiate season, and how difficult that was, especially integrating freshmen and on all of that into the scenario. But I think one of the most difficult things for a lot of college coaches this past year, is they want to tweak things, they want to touch things right there and there when maybe they don't necessarily need to, because they need to recognize what is the demand for right now. And you guys had your season coming real quick after kind of, this COVID lockdown, and you guys had to be prepared and ready to go.
Yeah, I think that I agree with you guys so much, in the sense that we were actually, we were privileged in the sense that we had the entire fall season to train. So, the Pac-12 decided to play in the spring. The ACC didn't. And so, whether that hurts them or whatever it does is yet to be seen. But, it enabled me to take the goalkeepers and Amanda and Sam and Jane to take the field players and train them and get them used to systems and get them used to stuff. It's a full season of training. And then rolling into what we have done this spring and everything, there's certain things that Lauren does that, technically and stuff, I don't care. Any coach can look at me out there and be like, I'm like, but that's Lauren, and she does it well, and she does it, and I'm not going to change it. And I agree with you on that. Like, she distributes a certain way. She does things a certain way. She has a side throw that if I try to take it really technical to her, I might lose volatility. Like, I might lose the volatility on it. I might lose everything. I'm like, it works for her. So like, I'm leaving that alone. I will tweak other things. And then coming into the season, now it's a maintenance process. Now it's getting ready for the next game, the next tournament, and stuff like that. And I had the privilege of the fall to hammer them, to get out weird like quirks in their game, and now it's a maintenance process right now.
I think you go ahead, Omar.
No, I just kind of, while we're on this topic, I just thought about it from, different goalkeepers in the units. We obviously learn things from each other. And Will, for you, going into like the national team setup, where two-part question, did you learn anything from the guys that you were in camp with? And did they see anything in your game and like mention to you, hey, like that's actually something we've never seen here. Can you show us the technique and how you perfected it?
Nah, I mean, I was in camp with big ballers, man. I was with Tim Howard, Brad Guzan, Nick Raimondo. And so I was the one paying attention to what they were doing. And, first going into that camp, there are certain things that I noticed right away, which is how much more technical, it is, like a dipper, the technique that they would use to collect the ball and the body shape behind it. And I was just used to, not worrying about that as much, as long as, I kept the ball in possession, my possession. And so little things like that. And, for me, ever since I was a little kid, I've always wanted to learn, always. There isn't a day where I don't want to learn something new, or where I don't think there's something new I can learn. And so when I had, guys like Tim Howard, Goose and Raimondo, it would have been dumb on my side not to take the most out of it. And regarding what I do, obviously, there was going to be no comments from Tim or Goose or Raimondo towards me, because I was just, a young fella, just having my first camps with the U.S. national team. But one thing that they do emphasize a lot in specifically in Mexico, which is where I was my entire career, is your ability to distribute the ball, to be that 11th man in possession.
Absolutely.
And so one thing that, I've always tried to work on are my side volleys, or finding my outbacks, or the eight pockets, and things that we work on a lot with Sharpe, because the game has evolved so much to where the keeper is a key part in part of that possession, of the team's possession with the ball. So that's one of the things that I think helped me going into camp, and has helped me, just because I like having the ball on my feet. I feel comfortable, and now it's just a matter of using it to the advantage of the team the best as possible, and what Sharpe and Robin ask of me.
I think Saskia was raising her hand.
And I think that I was. Sorry, I was. I think realize though, as well, is that you're brought in for a reason. And once you're brought in at the level you're brought in, isn't necessarily to readjust your playing, like what you're doing. Like I would be remiss to say, if I was a national team goalkeeper coach, I'm going to bring in Ashlyn Harris and everybody and try to re-teach them something. I'm going to highlight their strengths. We will talk about some of their weaknesses and work on them a little bit, but I'm not going to try to retweak you totally as a goalkeeper. You're brought in for a specific, so I wouldn't want a national team goalkeeper to come in and say, well, Timmy's doing this, or Goose is doing this, or Ashlyn's doing this, or, Nara's doing this, so I have to do that. No, that I brought you in for a different reason. You're in here because of what you do, and I will work on you to tweak some stuff. Maybe you're too far near post. I love saying that. Maybe you're this or that or the other, but you have to kind of identify the self, that I'm not trying to make you into a Timmy Howard. I'm not trying to make you into a Brad Guzan. I'm not trying to do that. I'm bringing you in for you. So the keepers that understand that and don't get caught up in trying to be something they're not are the ones that succeed.
100%. I agree 100% with that, because every keeper is so different. I mean, every keeper has his own style, and that's like one of the first talks I had with Sharpe was, I've seen so much video on you, and I like this, and that, and we're not going to change that.
Mm-hmm.
And Sharpe has helped me be comfortable enough to where, if he's like, if he says something, try to get your center of gravity lower. It'll help you do this. And I try, and it's not working for me. And we've had we have them on a daily basis, these conversations, where it's kind of like, I feel a little more comfortable being a little bit upright because I feel like I can get down to the ground lower that way, and yeah, I mean, we just work on those small things. I think communication with the goalkeeper coach is a huge part of it. And like you say, I think it's the biggest part is being true to your style and to who you are. Because like you say, if you're trying to mimic something you're not or someone who you're not, it's just not going to work.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I think it's big, guys.
Go ahead, Sharpe.
I think it's big for the goalkeeper coaches to like what Will just said, and Sass, what you just saying. You bring someone in because they will enhance what your team is trying to do. And it could be anything. It could be your group wants to play a high line, the head coach wants to press, you need someone who's comfortable playing outside the 18-yard box and high up the field. They want to build. They don't want to go long. Everything has to build for the goalkeeper. So you need someone who's comfortable with their feet, who enjoys the ball at their feet. Your team might be a team that plays very, very spread, and you guys give up a lot of stuff in transition, a lot of shots. You might need a shot stopper, just a pure shot stopper, keep the ball at the back of the net, but you're not asking to build out from the back. Like there's a lot of different things that go into why we pull goalkeepers in, why we pull players in. But I think for me, when you are identifying the talent that you want, or the certain people that you want in that group, you must look at them. Doesn't matter if they're 18 or they're 38, and say, all right, they do this well. I'm not going to try and change it. Can I enhance that to make them do it even better? Yeah. But there are parts of their game that I want to improve or help them improve within the shell of what they already are as a goalkeeper. I think for me, especially at Will's level, when we start trying to pull them apart completely, it's not gonna... it hurts them, which obviously has a snowball effect for everybody else. And there was things that Will and I, like I said, talked about certain things like, what if we shrink you down a little bit in your starting position, in your stance? Tried it. Will's like, no, I'm not comfortable with it. Great. Let's go back up. Let's change something else about it to get it to where we need it to be. So we looked at the feet, the movements, like little things that Will does really, really well, starting to get it now to a point where it's almost into perfection. And that to me is, and he's starting to feel it. So it obviously that collaboration, and Will makes a great point there, that the communication and collaboration between goalkeeper and coach is massive. You have to be on the same page. And that's just through communication and understanding of what, we're talking about right now.
No, absolutely. Sorry, go.
No, I was just going to say just to Omar right here, because Omar, we're going to allow you to talk again. We're taking you off mute. You can talk now. I don't know what your situation is with your grandparents walking in the background. Hopefully they're not going to walk by any minute now. But I want to ask you, because the thing is we've been talking about at the highest levels, tip right here, professional level, national team level, and all that. And obviously, you've worked at the youth level and at the collegiate level. I think one of the biggest issues, and I think, this is something that you recognized early on in your coaching career, is that a lot of young coaches out there is they don't look about making sure that the goalkeeper is effective for not only their system, like Sharpe's talking about, but effective for who they are. And they try to reprogram them into being the picture of the goalkeeper they think they should be. How difficult was that for you to kind of break that, that mold of a coach?
No, I think that's the beauty of where the goalkeeping community is nowadays, where you share ideas, you share your stories, and then people will obviously share theirs. And with Sharpe, and then you have like Paul Rogers and Phil Whedon. I've shared with them, I've had a bad session, or I've tried to do this with a goalkeeper, and they've all reminded me we've done that before as well. Like, don't think that you're the only goalkeeper coach that's tried to implement your style and certain characteristics into a goalkeeper that just didn't work. So for me, that was peace of mind, knowing that other coaches have done it, but it's now that I'm aware of it, how do I respond to it? So I told you guys a story before. I had a young kid, Hispanic goalkeeper, amazing shot stopper. I said, if I could just give him a little bit of technique and make those saves, not look prettier, but make him look, give a better rebounds, put him into the corner versus central. When he scoops the ball, make sure he takes it on, he grips it the first time versus dropping it and then steering a rebound for himself. So I tried to teach him that, and he pushed back, and I didn't know how to react. I was like, well, I thought this was the only way that it needed to be done. So I think as a young coach, if you have that kind of friction with somebody, don't go in there thinking you need to have your way or that's it. It's more like Chris is always saying, and I know I always thank Chris because we did that podcast together and I was able to film him. It was more so put a topic together, and then once you've had that topic, each goalkeeper is going to respond differently. And Chris, yours, your session was that, recovering back to your line and creating space. It was like the corner kick aspect. Abe, obviously different size. than Will and Clint. And for him, he's going to respond differently. So for me, it was seeing that, and I go, okay, you're doing a topic, but each goalkeeper is getting different language based on their ability, based on their size. So I'll thank you for that. And I'll thank every other coach that's posted about that. That reminds me of like, there's a proper way to do it. Now that I'm aware of it, now it's about just educating yourself and finding out what each goalkeeper needs.
No, Will, go ahead, Tusk.
No, I agree with that. I think that in my old age and stuff, but I think that showing the goalkeeper what they're doing wrong, like video wise and stuff, so they get it, so that it's not just your philosophy. It's like there's certain things we've talked about that are gray area in goalkeeping. You know, certain height, different distance off your line because of your size, like athleticism, this, that, and the other. That is what it is. But there's certain things, angle play and this and that and the other, that you can show to a goalkeeper. All right, you're not listening to me. I'm going to keep showing you why this keeps happening. Why this keeps happening. You're too far near post. You're out of position. You can't recover back into the center of the goal. You're getting beat every time. This, that, and the other. If you start here for this situation and stuff like that, try it. Understand what I'm saying. This has nothing to do with height or size or athleticism. This has to do with angles, mathematics, and everything like that. Like, understand that. So there's two folds to this. Yes, we develop goalkeepers based on their size, their abilities, their athleticism, and everything. But there also is a calculated size to it as well. Sorry, you guys. Calculated size to it as well that we have to add in too.
See what's going on right there, Will, is that Saskia's getting all those group texts because everybody's congratulating her for the Pac-12 championship. Is that really what it is?
Yeah, it actually is.
That's hilarious. No, it's okay.
I want to say my point, like, and a good example to you would be, all right, I'm going to say I didn't have it, but if we look at the goal that we won against Stanford yesterday, and she's a half a foot too far near post. When Raylan is coming down to the end line, she has no chance to shoot near post whatsoever. She's got pressure on her, and Stanford's goalkeeper is half a foot of front of near post, right? So all Raylan does is slide in and chip a ball into center of the box. Now your recovery, you're so far out of position, your recovery is so off that had you been in the right position, any goalkeeper in the right position, you could just come and collect the ball. But because you're so far out of position, we get a clip on the ball, we get a rebound, and we score the winning goal. So that's just fact for any goalkeeper. That's what I'm telling you. There's a difference between athleticism and what a keeper brings to the game and the fundamentals of goalkeeping.
Will, I want to ask you this because, while we have you here, is like a lot of times, a lot of young goalkeepers, they see an action that takes place in a game of a high level professional like yourself, and it's not a successful action. And they go, oh, that was the wrong action. That was the wrong action in the moment. Not recognizing all the different variables that go into it. Can you kind of explain to, kind of some of the young goalkeepers out there that, like, just because an action isn't effective doesn't mean it was the wrong action in the moment?
Of course. And I mean, I've been playing for a while. Sharpe has been around, for forever. And
Sorry about that. I've been around longer than you. So.
That's true.
And we just had this chat just a few days ago where you're not always gonna be in the perfect spot. You're not always gonna have the perfect action. So it's what you do on a daily basis to how you can compensate for those bad actions to, at the end of the day, become effective. So there are times where, we talk about this with Sharpe all the time, where you're not going to be in the perfect spot. And just because you're not in the perfect spot doesn't mean that you can't be effective in the action that's taking place. And as for young goalkeepers, no, you're going to make mistakes. We make mistakes at the highest level, and it's part of it. One of the big things that helps me is what Saskia was talking about is going back, looking at video, because when you're caught up in the moment in the game, sometimes you don't realize it. And when you go back and review it on video, you sit with, your goalkeeper coach, and you review it, you notice all these little things. And so then, your focus turns in to the week and what you have to do to perfect those moments. But to any young goalkeeper, know that your actions aren't always going to be perfect, but it's what you can do with whatever position or situation you're in, where you can compensate in a certain way to make whatever play is that you're in effective.
I love what you just said right there. And Sharpe, I know this is a conversation that like we've had personally in regards to the fact that, a lot of young goalkeepers, they'll give up on the play if they think that they're in the wrong position, or they get that deer in the headlights look like, oh, I came out, I wasn't supposed to come out, that sort of a thing. And you kind of have to, kind of reemphasize to them, that you still have to make a play on the ball. You still have to do something to try to affect the scenario.
It's funny. We did a crossing session last week, Will.
Yeah.
You know exactly where I'm going with this, don't you? We did a crossing session last week, and it was 4 angles, getting into what we call the prime assist zone for the attackers, and finding ourselves in the best positions. We had the rebounders in there, the goalkeeper could finish. Just me putting them into really tough and awkward positions, and making a very, very quick decision. And Sash, you just mentioned there about getting outside the post. When do we square up? When is our body on a slight angle? Where do we want to be to make sure that we have the most options to save the shot, deal with the cross, deal with the cutback, deal with a rebound in and around us, whatever it looks like. But we were 3 quarters away from the session, whipped in a ball, and we stopped it. We came in and chatted after the thing, and Will said to me, well, what's the thought process here? If we know in that split second that we've made a mistake, it hasn't been a mistake, or it hasn't turned into a mistake, but we know that we have taken a step forward and gone, oh, crap, now I'm in a bad spot. And not compounding that part into another one, and then into another one, and then into another one. So, and as Will just mentions there, being in a space that then I might not be in the best position, but now I've got to think about what is actually going to happen and trying to be effective in that moment to keep the ball at the back of the net. And it doesn't have to be pretty, it doesn't have to be, good to the naked eye, but not compounding a movement that may have put us in a bad position to start with another one, then another one, then another one, and it just keeps going on top of each other, So conversation that we had, and I'm just using this example because it happened last week. We had a conversation like this last week.
It literally happened last week. It was a cross. I took 2-3 steps out as if I were to collect the ball. And then, it's the oh crap moment. And then, so that's where a lot of keepers give up. And their first thought is, I'm done, I'm screwed, it's a goal. But the play's not over yet. So it's what can you do in a split second to get in the best position possible, which we talk about with Sharpe all the time. You're not going to be in a good spot, but you have to be in a good enough spot to where you can deal with, you don't know how the play's going to finish. You don't know if the striker's touch is going to be off, if it's going to be, you just don't know. So it's, what do I do next? And it worked out perfect for this because it just happened. I don't know, what was it, Thursday, I think?
Yeah, Thursday. Yeah.
Dude, Will, you just brought up something awesome though. Like I was
say this, and Mike and Omar know this. Don't follow one mistake by another. Period. Don't compound it. You get that oh crap moment, and you don't just say I'm committed to the I'm committed to the oh crap moment. Oh crap. Yeah. You still have a split second to make a decision. I'm going to bring up the goal against Nair and Sweden. Period. Where in the world was she going? What? She made the decision to come for that corner kick. Okay. There is no reason that she should have come for that corner kick. You've got everybody at the top of the front corner of the 6. You got all your players, you got everything. You got a ball that swung in, curling into away from her at the top of the 6. She's never getting to that ball. And she made the decision in her head to go. And so halfway there, she should have said, oh shit, this is the wrong decision, and stop. Maybe you stop and maybe you still give yourself a chance. But she said, I've committed myself to this. I'm just going to go. Right. So, the Sweden forward comes back by, heads it and puts it in. She stays in that situation. She just stands and makes a standing save, and it's no big deal. But because she committed herself and couldn't pull herself back from making the wrong decision, She made two bad decisions. Number one, you made the wrong decision just to automatically go. Number two, you made the wrong decision not to stop yourself, realizing that you're never getting to that ball, and at least put yourself, shape up, bow up, and maybe you get a tip, and maybe you still make the save. So it was horrible goalkeeping. She's a great goalkeeper, but she knows, and she can come on and talk to me about it. It was horrible goalkeeping, period. And it's something I hate to see. It's like, oh, I'm just still gonna come and try to punch the ball, and you get headed, and the ball goes in the back of the net. It was hard.
I do want to say this right now, by the way, in regards to just not the Alyssa Nair situation. But Omar, I think one thing that I experienced, and I don't know if you felt the same way when you went, to South America, and Sharpe, you can attest to this as a coach, and Will, you can attest as a player, is that I feel like in Latin America, one benefit they do have is they do put the goalkeepers in their session design a lot of times in disadvantageous situations, and it forces the goalkeeper to learn how to make a play on the ball, even if it's a no-win situation. Omar, is that something that you experienced?
Just continue to go all out. Yeah, no, I've definitely seen, I went to, I know you probably know of Tecos in Mexico. I went there, and a lot of the drills were, it's like a 1v1 when you're already out, just finish the play out. There's no reason for you to stop and then, absorb or see the situation in front of you. But that was like, 13 years ago. So it was a long time ago. So I'm sure things have changed, but that was one of those situations. And even when I watch, Brazilian goalkeepers or something like that, sometimes I feel like they come out and give themselves up a little too soon. And I use the word a lot, default. And I think a lot of them default into different positions where I'm like, I feel like maybe you could have, like Sas said, you come out a certain way, and then now you can adjust to different variables versus coming out 100 miles an hour and giving yourself up. But I think it's, for me at least, I think it's changing. There's certain people who are breaking down the footage now, and but as long as you're as a coach aware that that's an issue with your goalkeeper, then you can break it down. But I think some coaches still believe when you're already out, go all out, go for the ball, and if you don't win it, make sure the player doesn't.
Go ahead, Sas.
I just don't. I think that in our ability at this point, like and correct me if I'm wrong, you guys, don't, like, you can realize in your movement, because you're supposed to take a pause and realize where the ball's going, right? You're not just supposed to, and this is where a lot of goalkeepers fall into it. Okay, I'm coming out, I'm going to box the ball. So we see goalkeepers like box the ball right here, just catch the ball, open up your hands, right? So, like, I feel like I'll bring up that situation. I think that she made the decision. She was coming for the cross no matter what. You have to be able to change your mind. It's like coming for a through ball or something and saying, I'm going, it's 50-50 ball, and realizing it's not a 50-50 ball, and being able to gather yourself in your fast movement and still stand a player up. And so it's that quick decision-making that makes, in my opinion, top goalkeepers to elite goalkeepers. Realizing that you've made a decision that might be wrong, but still being able to gather yourself and give yourself a chance.
Yeah.
And
I agree, Stash. I agree. And I think the ones that go from being good goalkeepers to great goalkeepers actually then change that moment to advantageously affect themselves.
Yep.
So I'll use what we were talking about last week. Ball over the top, whipped in from a close area, takes a step forward, goes over his head, person in the back post. He's got 3 yards, 3.5, 4 yards left to cover. Goes over his head, takes his step, takes the second one and goes, oh crap. Now turns, sees the player's about to volley it. But you take 2 steps, you take off, you end up diving past the person volleying the ball, past the post. You got nothing inside the goal, and they just tap it past you anyway and go, oh, whatever, you made the mistake the first part. I'm saying, okay, you made the mistake to take the step. The ball goes over your head. As you turn, what does my timing look like to make sure that as they hit the ball, I'm now saying to you, okay, I've given you 3 yards of space, but that's the only 3 yards of space you're going to hit the ball in. I'm going to try and time it. So as I take off, you're hitting the ball in that area. I got legs to cover the backside of the back post of my goal, and every other part of my body is going to cover this near post. People aren't going to look at that and go, oh, he made a mistake there, and what a recovery. People go, what a great save.
Right.
But that ability to turn what in your head in that split second is, oh crap, that's a mistake, into a, you know what, I'm going to turn this into my advantage situation here and deal with it, and then be done with it and move on. And that's the difference for me.
Tony DeChico always said it's better to be set and out of position than moving. Like, you don't compound one mistake by another one. Don't like keep running at the ball and say, shit, I've given myself up. This is the decision I made. I'm just going to stick with it. You have the ability to change your mind in the flow of play, in this decision. And then even if you're out of position, get set and try to make a play on the ball, period. Yep. And you never know what you're going to come up with.
No.
Well, it's funny that you just said that, Susker, right here, because I want to bring up this clip right here of Will when we're talking about being effective, and even when you might be slightly out of position, being able to make a play on the ball. This is a great play right here. Basically, what happens is a 46th minute for people who are listening right now. Colorado, Seattle, rolled on, gets a ball on the outside corner, and it's like a sharp driven ball into Rui Diaz on the one-time touch, and what a brilliant save right there, Will. Talk about right there, improvising in the moment, recognizing you need to cover that gap and just kind of just spreading yourself, and boom, look at that, guys. Like that ball's coming in hard. You recognize you're not going to attack that ball and approach it. You're going to hold position. And then you see that gap is right there. And then you just a simple touch with the body right there. That's effective.
Also, what Will doesn't do is he doesn't assume. He doesn't assume. He doesn't cheat. He doesn't do anything. He stays big. He stays solid. And he gives himself the opportunity to react to whatever it is, period. A lot of goalkeepers will assume, they'll go this, oh, he's going to hit it near, but he just stays big and gives himself a chance.
In all fairness, a lot of this is credit to Sharpe, because this movement is something that we've worked on a daily basis. So I'm always amped up, hyped up, on the field, whatever, and there's a lot of movement in my body. And so one of the things we've been working on a lot is, especially in that situation right there, is once you see you're not going to be able to collapse and collect the ball if it's coming across the face of the goal, is turning and getting set.
Yep.
And when I've realized how much that's been able to help me, as when you're set, your possibilities of getting a save are that much higher, as to if I were to turn and I'm moving, then I'm screwed. And so it's something we've been working on a lot. These are the small tweaks and things that we were talking about at the beginning that have helped me tremendously, where I've noticed that giving myself a little bit of extra depth and being set have helped me tremendously. And we're still working on it. There's still times during games or at halftime or after the game, I'll come up to Sharpe and be like, dude, when that ball came across, I was still moving. We'll see it in the video. But we're getting better. We're getting there, but I can already start to see it, in certain actions like this one we just saw.
Let's put it on mute. Put it on mute.
It is on mute. I don't know why it's doing that. I'm sorry.
Wait, did you turn your phone on silent? Like just
my phone off. How about that? So no, and I agree with that 100%. And that's a hard thing to teach keepers. And Sharpe will know this. Like, they get in their mindset that, and they think and they lean, and you have to remember that number one, the forward sees you leaning. Number one, the forward feels your energy. They know you're maybe leaning near post or leaning far post, and they're going to tuck it in wherever your energy is going the opposite way. And so you have to, at this level, you have to realize that they're not just blindly hitting the ball, hopefully.
No.
And so standing tall and getting set, even with more depth, and more depth gives you more reaction time, the close, in certain situations. So it gives you that time to get set and get a reaction where maybe if you're too close, you get beat by speed.
We had a situation. Sorry, Mike.
No worries.
Last week, played Salt Lake in a preseason game. Pretty similar to what the video you just saw there, but it was on Will's other side. Ball, lad comes down our right hand side, cuts the ball back. Will turns in, probably another yard over than what he was there. Smacked it from 6 yards. Great first save. Ball goes out the top of the box. Krylak hits it first time. Weed squeezed out, and they have two players, one behind and one beside Will, that are offside. Like Krylak hits it first time. Will's in a good spot. The lad standing right next to him doesn't take off because the boy's standing right there. The referee calls it a goal. And when we watched the video, they're 4, 5, 6 yards offside. But when we go back after the game, Will comes up to me and goes, I know exactly what you're going to say after when you watch the video back. As soon as the ball went out, I stepped forward. We talk about things like that, but now the ingraining of the coach's side into what the goalkeeper's doing, he knows it. He's walked off the field and gone, you're going to say I took a step forward, which is great. On the weekend, we played against Phoenix Rising, and both my goalkeepers played. Our other goalkeeper, Rolsey's on loan to Phoenix, so I got to watch both of them, and I did their videos against each other. And there were times there, ball goes out, Rolsey's having the game, I'm stepping forward, I'm moving forward as the ball gets cleared out from a corner kick. And it's great to see. It's great for me as a coach and Sus, and you guys know that it's becoming ingrained in them. They know it as soon as they do it. They know it. They can talk about it. They feel it, which is great, because that means it's a learning process. It's starting to, like Will said, starting to become ingrained in them that, it will become effective. What they're doing will become effective. And then when they see it, they make the save, it'll become very effective. And that to me is a huge piece of coaching.
Absolutely. I totally agree.
I absolutely love what you just said, Sharpe, right there, because I know that Omar and I, we've had this discussion in the past in regards to when you really understand that your goalkeeper is kind of connecting, for lack of a better term, that everything is moving fluidly in regards to training into the match scenarios and all that stuff, is when they start hearing your language within their movements, and you don't need to say anything. And Omar, I know we've had this discussion before, like where in the past, yourself or maybe a younger coach or whatever, even myself in the past, will start trying to tell something to a goalkeeper, but they've already recognized that there's no need for us to regurgitate that information.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's where, again, I just watching Chris, I bring your session up all the time with people who I talk to about like a lot of the things and the ways that I coach. And when you layer those, like the terminology in your sessions as a coach, you have to find your voice first, and then your principles of what you want to coach. And then once you've obviously taken those principles and then understood the context of the player you're coaching that into and what their best strengths are, then in the sessions, and I told Chris when we were watching, he was just like, I don't have to stop the session that much anymore, Omar, because I could just say one or two words and they know exactly what I'm talking about. So I think as long as you can develop that trust with your player, develop that language, that coaching on the fly becomes so easy. And then at the end of the day, they start coaching themselves. And like he's saying, Will's, coming off the field and saying, I can tell you exactly what you're going to see on the footage. That right there is that trust. And it's like, I know you're not going to criticize me. And if you are, I know exactly why. So for me, I think that's the important part of that trust. And you kind of have to let that build over time. You can't force it with one or two sessions. It's just period of time they have to get used to.
I think you bring up a great point there, Omar. And it's funny because I had this conversation with one of my coaching staff the other day about, like, you use the word criticizing. It's not for me. It's
me either.
It's I'm giving you the information that I think is going to make you the best goalkeeper, which in turn is going to let us win football games. And there's a whole way around that, which in turn, for the coach, it helps us as well. If my goalkeeper's playing well and the team's winning football games, it reflects on us as a coaching staff. And there's a whole process to it. It's not just goalkeeper played poorly, goalkeeper coach's fault. Goalkeeper played well, goalkeeper coach has done well. You know what I mean? That's for me, it's not even close to being the case.
Yeah.
Team plays well, team wins the game, fantastic.
No, go ahead, Sharpe.
I'm just saying it's a holistic view for me. And like you just said there, Omar, it's an understanding that when they're doing the little things well, they're understanding the little things they're asking, not only in my philosophy, but my philosophy is also brought into how we want to play, as a club and as a team. That has to be a part of it as well for the goalkeepers to understand that. And when they start seeing that and playing well, then, for us, it's a win-win because the team's winning, the goalkeeper's playing very, very well. And as a coaching staff, whatever it looks like, it's successful.
I want to play this clip right here, Will, because, I think this is a great example, in regards to what I think, Saskia, you might have been the one who brought it up earlier in regards to, when you recognize you can't win that ball. And basically what happens, it's a corner that's played right through here. Essentially, we'll just play it through live. Ball's played in, you create depth, ball comes in to Wando, and then you just make yourself huge right there. I mean, that's such a brilliant play right there because so many young goalkeepers, again, they'd get caught in this no man's land right there. It's like, oh, I got to affect the play. And you're like, no, what's going to be effective for me is for me to drop line right here, create some depth so that when that ball is laid off, as that ball, I think that's Wando that I think the ball comes into initially. And you just made yourself, made yourself as huge as possible and just affect the play right there. I think that's just absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, the biggest thing for me there is right there. You can already tell that I'm thinking about what we've been working on since I got here with Sharpe, and which is, once I recognize that
so
there's
bad.
no reason for me to come collect that ball. It's give myself depth. So if there is a header, I have that little bit of extra reaction time. And once the ball gets played in, I mean, it's what you say. I mean, I don't think this is me personally. This is where Sharpe never, gets into me like, you should do this, you should do that. That just is who I am, where if it's a split ball, you just do what you can to make yourself as big as possible, hoping that, you're inside the 6-yard box. I don't know, 3-4 yards off the line, to where, just make yourself as big as possible and try to make sure that ball, ends up hitting you and not the back of the net.
I mean, that's just a brave play in my opinion right there, and I've seen young goalkeeper coaches, criticize a goalkeeper for spilling that ball in that box right there. And I'm not saying it, and again, I think it's part of that maturation process and that learning process, as opposed to recognizing just the fact that they affected the play is the win right there. And guess what? If you get scored on in that situation right there, you still did your best to affect the play. That is in my opinion, that's a no-win situation right there.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think every keeper would want to save, every scoring opportunity that the rival has. They're going to score on you. I mean, that's the end of the day. You just have to have as many tools as possible to, another thing me and Sharpe talk about every single day, make yourself hard to beat. I mean, at the end of the day, that's our goal. Have as many tools as possible so that on game day, you're hard to beat.
Yeah. I mean,
go ahead, Trevor. It goes back to Sass's thing about what you said about the goal against Stanford. I'm talking to these guys all the time about giving themselves options. And my big thing is for Will is make yourself as hard to beat. We're giving, all the guys the tools, all the goalkeepers the tools to be hard to beat. But I'm always asking them to think about the options they have. Don't take options away by poor positioning. Don't take options away by quick decisions that are going to hurt you.
I'll give it to I'll give it to the fact that she got her ass back across the goal. And she actually did make the save off of Sunshine's first, but because it should have never had to come to what it came to for her. And it came to a kick save and it rebounded right back out to Delaney, and Delaney buried it. Had she not taken those options away from herself, she would have just collected the ball. We would still be playing. So, but if you pull up the clip, and I can actually send it to Mike, she took herself so far out of the situation that she literally had no options. She played that near post so much when there's no reason to, that, and I had already noted this in pre-game videos. She's taking herself, and I saw it multiple times, and I said, she's taking herself out of situation, go far post. Raylan, it was a good hit. She just, honestly, it was lucky. Raylan slid and kicked it, but it went past her, and her recovery, she took herself out of the game. And I want to backtrack onto the fact that I love the fact, Will, that I love when my keepers come to me and say, I know, I was this, I was that, because I can't be on the field with you, and that's the bottom line. And so you have to realize the mistakes you've made, and maybe it doesn't result in a goal, but the mistakes you've made, and adjust them in the flow of play. And I'm not the coach that's going to stand here running up and down the sideline, joysticking you and yelling and screaming. And it's not who I am, right? I'm hoping that the education I've given you over the week or over the weeks, you can educate yourself in the situation, in the flow of the game. And when you come to me at a halftime or something and say, I was still moving, or that, I'm like, sweet, I don't have to say anything. We'll deal with it at practice this week, but you get it,
Omar, I got a question for you, because obviously, you're big in the social media world. I'm pretty sure people know that by now. Is that with a lot of the sessions that are posted on social media, a lot of the times, I think one of the biggest issues with it is that it starts constructing this false construct in a lot of young goalkeepers' heads, where they think, if it doesn't look like this, then I'm not doing it right. It's not effective if I'm not doing it this way right there. How is that something that you kind of battle as an influencer, so that people start recognizing that, this is just a scenario that happened. This is not, the odds all ends all,
No, I think you just need to provide context from the jump. And I think that's what I've been trying to tell a lot of like people who do create content of like understanding, okay, today's going to be a handling session. We're looking to handle. And today's going to be a deflection session. We're looking to work on steering and where we deflect the ball. So I think from the jump, just putting a context to what you're doing is super important. And as well for the coaches, detailing what you're telling your goalkeepers, put it on camera as well. And I mean, I think we did that, Chris, with your session as well. I want to do it again, hopefully soon. But I think it was important for people to understand, okay, you want to create depth. Why is that? Okay, when the ball gets, played a certain way, when Carlos Vela comes down so you put context to specifically who you're going to be seeing in the scouting report. So for me and anybody watching, now I understand, okay, when he says create depth, he's saying it in this specific way versus just an umbrella statement of just create depth. And that's all you need to do. So I think that's very important understanding in terms of just putting it up front in the video or even in text, letting people know what your objective is.
Well, I got a question for you because, obviously as a veteran professional now, you've got such a memory bank now of scenarios that you've seen. When you're in a situation and you see something, you go, oh, that reminds me of this so-and-so situation. Is there a chance sometimes that in those situations you get in your head because you start playing that scenario in your head rather than that what's really going on in front of you?
No, obviously over the years you gain experience, and but the biggest thing for me is there's no two exact scenarios. So every game, every scenario is going to be completely different. So every game I've ever played, there's certain shots that might be similar, or certain situations that might be similar, but what the biggest thing for me is knowing who you're going to face. So we do a lot of video review, and you need to know what the abilities of certain players you're going to be up against are to give yourself an idea. But I mean, at the end of the day, it means nothing, because if it's Vela, for example, he always tried to cut back and look for that far post shot, but just because that's what he usually does doesn't mean he's always going to go there. And then other things come into play. If you have bodies in front of you that might help you cover that first post shot to where you can get a little bit of an extra step towards your far post to cover it easier. It experience does give you a lot on how to handle certain moments of games, how to be more calm under certain situations. But at the end of the day, any ball you're going to face is going to be completely different to any other one you've ever had. Similar situations, yes, but at the end of the day, you're going to have to resolve it in a different way. But experience does give you a little bit of a front edge on how to deal with it, for sure.
Sharpe, I know that you guys do, obviously a lot of analysis, a lot of video breakdown and everything like that. And I think one thing, in regards to effectiveness, is recognizing those trends from the video analysis, and I know, Omar, this is something that you're really big on. Obviously, Saskia at UCLA, you guys are huge on breaking it down and recognizing those trends. Do you ever, like, kind of when you're looking through this and go, oh my gosh, I thought that these actions were being effective, but based on these trends that I'm seeing throughout the season, there are better ways to go about this?
Yeah, I think that, look, Will makes a great point. Not any one situation is the same. Bodies will be in different areas. Wind will be different. Field will be wet. Field will be dry. There's a million different things you could throw in there. Ball speed, balls hit differently, balls moving, whatever it looks like. You're in a better position than you were the scenario before. But I think, for me, and look, we do quite a bit of video, and obviously the pandemic stuff hasn't helped a whole lot be able to be, side by side with each other. But, for the guys, I spend a lot of my time, and Will knows it, watching the training video over and over again, watching the game film. And, I said this the other day, Mike, when we were texting back and forth, and Will attest to this. I say to the guys all the time, just be effective. Just be effective. Doesn't matter if I hit a ball that's dipping and bending and you try and take it cleanly. If you get two big paws to it and it goes out for a throw on the sideline, it's been effective. It might not be the most, visually aesthetic and pleasing to the eye, but it's effective. You've put the ball in a position that helps us, that helps you. But you do look for trends and traits in each goalkeeper that will help them be effective 100%. But not every scenario is going to allow you to use your technical ability, the way you want to do it, your breakdown, and be effective. And one that came to mind, and Mike, you and I were looking, I was looking through some video, but did a shot stopping thing last week, and I had the traffic cones. I use traffic cones a lot, like the 3-foot traffic cones in the guys. We have 2-3 defenders in front of our goalkeepers, in front of Will, that are very block orientated. And Will and I look at this all the time. They drop very deep on top of the goalkeeper. So, when they're looking to get blocks in and people are having shots, not necessarily really tight to guys, they'll be 3 or 4 yards off them. And it then creates a depth, difference for the goalkeeper. So I use the traffic cones a lot, wet traffic cones, the ball slips off them brilliantly. But the other day, hit a dipping ball in, and it comes around the cone, and Will just kind of volleyballs it out for a corner kick. If he tried to do anything else, rebound's probably going to end up somewhere where we don't want it to be. And it's just effective. And he looked at me and I said, mate, that's effective. What you've just done there is purely effective. Your position was great. Set position was fantastic. Timing of getting set when I put my head down was great. You're in a great spot. Ball dips around the cone. He has to stand up, wait for the deflection. Doesn't lean, doesn't cheat, doesn't lose hips. Just volleyballs it out over the sideline for a corner kick. For me, great. We set our shape up. Fantastic. End. It's dead. But aesthetically not great, but effective 100%. And those are the moments that for me, being effective in the goalkeeping is massive, especially nowadays with all the different tangibles that we have going on.
But Sharpe, we train that out of kids. And Will, I'm sure you've seen this at the youth levels all the way up to the professional level when you're playing. Coaches that train this out of kids, that train that ability to make those decisions based on what the goal or the outcome is that they want, and they go, no, I'm not supposed to do that, so I'm going to do this instead, and then it fails.
Yeah. Like, I'll give a good example. Lauren came out to, and this is a field player example. Lauren came out to make a 50-50 save on a breakaway against Stanford, right? So she hits 50-50 in the box, right? Like massive collision. The ball spins up, so it pops up, and it has the weirdest spin on it, and it drops. So JC, instead of a normal player running and trying to control the ball, she just runs through the ball. She's like, screw it. I'm just going to body through the ball. It bounced and did I don't know, like a weird hop towards the goal. But me understanding the way the ball spins knows that that's the weirdest spin on the ball, period. Had somebody tried to stand in and try to clear, it's going to hit off then and go in the, she just ran through the ball and put it out for a corner. Period. That's understanding. I'm just ushering this ball out with my body. I'm not going to do what technically people say, let me try to control this ball, send it out for a throw in. She tries to do that. It ricochets off her. It's in the back of the net. She just said, I'm just barreling through the ball and pushing it out for a corner. And that's what she did. And that's a field player, but that's understanding, you can't be so literal. You can't be like, this is what I'm supposed to do. That's not how this game works.
But I want to bring this up with Omar because, obviously you do a lot of private sessions, I mean, I know all of us do private sessions as well too, but you specifically, spend a great deal of time doing private sessions. And because of that, the parents are very much involved in this aspect of it. And I don't know if you've ever had this, Omar, but I've had the situation where parents will start telling me, oh, he did it wrong, or she did it wrong, or aren't you going to say something to them because that's not the way you taught them to do it or whatever. How do you deal with that situation so that the parents start understanding? Because I want the parents who are listening to this to understand, to give their kids that freedom and to recognize what's the outcome, what's the goal that you want, as opposed to what's this action.
Yeah, I think you just answered it though. I think it's just reminding them that the outcome is more important than, obsessing over the way they save the ball. And again, the evolution as a coach, you know when to bite your tongue, you know when to step in, and you know when to obviously let the goalkeepers improvise. And when they improvise and you feel like, I'm sure, Will, for you, the save that you made that Chris was talking about, I'm sure that's something that you've toyed around with for years and years and years. And you finally came to that point where I feel comfortable getting a good amount of surface area of my body behind this ball to steer it away. And if I was a young coach and I saw that, I probably would have said, don't do that, man. But then again, we talk about how literal players are. And now I'm aware of it, of how literal these kids will take it. And now that's it's just a mental block for the rest of their career. So I think understanding that at a young age now as a coach, where I'm just like, if a kid looks at me, sometimes they'll say, coach, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done it like that. And I just say, hey, you made the save. Do you know why you made the save? Can you explain to me the reason for your decision. Well, I just wanted to make sure I couldn't catch it. So I wanted to make sure I, steered it into a good area. That's all I care about. That's all I need to hear. But when you actually, let it go and you just say, hey, great save versus like, hey, tell me why you did that. I feel like the kid doesn't know why, and they'll never feel comfortable doing it again because they never verbalized the intent behind it. So as long as you can kind of give them the reason, or they can give you the reason why they did it. And I think taking a second in the session to help them, communicate that, I think that'll go a long way in the future.
Dude, I
Well,
love what you just said.
Well, I think it's keep the damn ball out of the net. Sorry, guys.
Numero uno.
I was going to say, at the end of the day, that's the most important thing. I mean, if it comes off of your face or your hands, doesn't matter. If it doesn't go in, that's all that matters.
That's the truth of the matter. It's the end of the day. Keep the ball out of the net. It's that simple. And I don't care. You have people, Mia Hamm played goalkeeper. Keep the ball out of the net. Like, just get it done. We can go over the technical side of stuff, but if you get your body there and you get everything there and it goes off your nose, or if it goes off your elbow or if your ear or whatever, and it's not in the back of the net, I don't care. It's not in the back of the net. Period.
There's something to be said. There's something to be said, guys, for a goalkeeper. Doesn't matter what age level, just being or having the knack to keep the ball at the back of the net. It aesthetically pleasing or not, it doesn't to me. There's something about it that just you can't look past that. And you guys know I do the academy, development academy, U12 for U19. I've seen a wide array of goalkeepers in the last 15 years come through. Kids that have gone to be national team goalkeepers, first team goalkeepers, good college level goalkeepers, guys that just wanted to go to college and enjoy themselves. But it's funny when you look back through the statistical side of it, that some of the goalkeepers who haven't gone on to be full national team, youth national team goalkeepers and high collegiate D1s and onto the first team, some of those guys that have just kind of got through the development academy, being very good at just keeping the ball at the back of the net. But to the eye of those watching and scouting them, it wasn't the prettiest, but their statistical show that they had the most wins across their time in the academy. They had the most save percentage across the time in the academy. It's interesting. It really is interesting. But I think we go away, we lose that now, like you just said, Omar.
We lose Sharpe?
They're doing something a little bit unorthodox. We lose that want to, that's very effective. That's really good. Or it's not very effective because they didn't do it like that. That was a little bit lucky. But for me, be effective. Like that clip you showed before, Mike, of Will on the near post at Ruby Diaz. I bet you 85% of kids would try and get their left hand down there to save that.
Mm-hmm.
Get rid of their feet and get their left hand down there to save that. That's just the way they've been taught. I'm massive, and we will tell you this because it's a big part of his game. Don't take your hands away to don't take your feet away to use your hands. You use everything. Be effective. Just let it be effective.
Be effective. At the end of the day, you keep the ball in the net. I'm sorry, and I say that all the time. I'm like somebody will come, my keepers will come back and be like, "Oh, I should have done this or that or the other." I'm like, "You kept the ball out of the net."
Right.
I'm like, so I mean, yeah, we can go over the technical side of it, but the ball's not in the back of the net. So I can't really argue that much with the situation. We can tweak it, but
Mike, and I just want to say one thing before we get to this clip.
Sure.
Just recently, I mean, I can't say where I've been working yet. Just hopefully, if it works out, it works out, hopefully. But, we had a game this weekend, and one of our goalkeepers, they obviously like to play out of the back. The whole team does, the system does. And the goalkeeper cleared it one touch. And
So
there was a guy
just figure
right on
out
top.
which teams around the world.
Yeah, live in LA. They love to play up in the back.
It gives you a lot of options, doesn't it?
Well, anyways, but the goalkeeper hit it away one touch, and he came off, and some of the coaches were just like, "Hey, you should look to play there." And again, when you offer a different perspective as a coach and as a goalkeeper specific coach, you understand the specific moments. You're like, hey, risk versus reward. I know you want me to play a certain way, but even if I find somebody, I'm gonna have to sprint across the goal, ask for a one touch ball back, and I'm gonna do the exact same thing I just did, on a decision that I made. So I went up to him. I just said, what did you see there? And he said, they want me to play out of the back, but I didn't feel comfortable. I said, good. I would rather you be decisive with your instincts and clear it away versus trying to try something else. And then they're going to blame you for making a mistake where you already knew the instinct was to, clear it away. So I think it's understanding like the the fine moments for myself as a coach too, of like when to step in and be not critical, like not to critique, but more so like, we're going for the same goal. Let me just give you the best tools and the best advice and the best feedback so that your instinct is never fogged by anybody else's opinions. Your instinct should be your instinct, and we're going to fine tune that. But at the end of the day, you need to be decisive with what you do, because the coaching staff from top to bottom, they will critique you and they will say, this guy has a better instinct, this guy has better decision making, and you need to be comfortable with, at the end of the day, the final result.
It's funny. I want to bring this up right now because you were just bringing up playing out of the back. And here's an example of where your instinct is to clear the ball, but that wasn't the effective situation right now. So I think I want to bring up, kind of paint the picture for everybody who's listening right now. But basically, this is RSL in Colorado. And Lala's
turn.
Yep. This is the one.
Yeah.
Yep. So Lala's plays the ball back to you, Will, and then you're being chased right here. The touch was a little heavy. It was a little away from you, and you recognize that if you tried to clear that, he could try to make a play on that ball. So this is all that time that you spent in Mexico, dude. You've got that foot skill. And the crossover, look at that Cruyff turn right there. But all that did was open up space and create space that now you can play a safe ball, right?
Yeah, I mean, ideally, you don't want to find yourself in that situation and almost give Sharpe a heart attack, which I've done more than once now. But I think, I mean, that was my initial thought right there, is he's coming in with speed, and if I try to clear it, he might get a touch on it and I might be in trouble. And knowing that if I have the right amount of distance between myself and, you know, from his press, with the speed he's coming at, it's so hard to stop. And so I know that by doing that, it'll give me, that chance to pop my eyes up forward again and see, what my next move is going to be. But at the same time, it's not something that I do just for the fun of it, or it's, in an uncomfortable situation, what do I have to do to get myself out of it? And I feel comfortable doing it sometimes, but then I have to be careful, because as players start to get to know you, then they'll start pressing, and then they slow themselves down so that they get to me, thinking that I might do that to them, and then I can get myself in trouble. So it's just kind of in reading his body language, the moment it's instinct sometimes. I know that one was 100% instinct, and yeah, you can't be showing those dudes with Sharpe on here, man.
Well, I mean, dude, Will, I personally, I thought I was playing devil's advocate right here. I actually thought it was effective, because the situation, again, Sharpe, I'm sure you can attest this. I'm sure you guys had conversations about it, but the touch was away from you. And if you had tried to clear that ball, he was going to get a foot on that ball, and again, you're better off. You have that skill set. If you have that skill set, know when to utilize it,
I think, again, from just a coach's perspective, you bring in the players because you know how they are. I know that Will has that in him, and he is going to be much more comfortable than other goalkeepers in the league with pressure and people close to him. That's part of the parcel, like we said at the beginning. You bring people in to affect the way the team plays and how the head coach would like to see the game be played, especially, if the goalkeeper is going to be part of the build-out, which, we are asking at our football club for that to happen. So, look, it is part of the game. Like Will said, he recognises the guy was coming at pace. The chances are he's not going to stop, on a dime there. The ability to do that, keep the ball, play to Lalas, we keep the ball, we progress down the field. Not something that Will does all the time, but it's in his locker if he needs it. And it's a tool that he has to get himself out of a situation if there is ever one to get in there, so.
But I love the fact, go ahead, Omar.
No, I just to exactly what we're talking about here. For example, I tell people all the time, I love Peter Schmeichel. I watched him when I was, growing up. And I think as I've gotten older, I've rewatched some of that footage, and I'm realizing a lot of the technique he's using, he didn't learn it as a goalkeeper, but also he's using it in emergency situations. And there was one that's like one of his most famous saves. He's coming across the goal against Inter Milan, and there's a header from probably like 6 yards out, does the star jump, just makes himself big. It hits his left arm and it goes out. And I think, again, like we're talking about with Will, it's like you as a young kid, if your coach was like, hey, don't ever use that star jump, hey, don't ever use that Cruyff turn, then you're going to be completely stunted, and that's not going to be an option for you. So that you're going to be in those situations and you're going to be like, oh crap, okay, I'm just going to take the hit here, or the guy's going to take it away from me. But when you actually, again, young coaches, let your guys explore that and then ask them the proper follow-up questions so they understand, why am I doing this? Why did I choose to do this? And then when they're in the game, again, I use Peter Schmeichel as the best example, but you look at Manuel Neuer too. Like, he does that big jump. He kind of like, makes himself big. This past week, they score on him not because of it, but he probably could have maybe guessed one way and then, maybe made the save, but still he makes the save sometimes and sometimes he doesn't. So I think you can't overanalyze and say, because he didn't make the save here, it's a terrible technique, scrap it. It's more so understanding the full scope, zoom out a little bit and see over the course of his career, how many times has that been effective?
Actually, it's fun. It's funny you just said that, Omar, because Will, I know you were kind of joking around about Sharpe being on the pod while we're showing that Cruyff turn. Bad. I wish I could do that, dude. But is that a scenario where if that wasn't effective, if it led to a goal as opposed to you playing it now, you would get in your mind and go, oh, I'm never going to do that again because it's not effective?
No chance, dude.
Okay.
No chance. I mean, every keeper has his own style, knows the tools he has, knows what works for him and what doesn't. And I think that's just part of the personality of every keeper. Like Omar said, what Peter Schmeichel used to do. I mean, I think he had some kind of a what was that other sport he played? And
Handball.
What was that?
Handball.
Yeah. And so he has that technique from handball, and it's something that works for him. You can't take that away from him. It's part of his personality. The same thing with the way Neuer makes himself big. I mean, your technique isn't always going to work for you. There's a clip for me in Mexico. I tried doing that and they took the ball away from me and they scored. But it doesn't change. Not because I made one mistake. It makes me lose confidence and say I'm never going to do it again. And there's just things that you have that are part of your personality and part of your style of play that it would be foolish to get rid of it because of one mistake you make.
Susk, I want to ask you this because, I know that we need to start wrapping up and you need to get going because you got a lot of people congratulating you about that Pac-12 championship and you got to start planning for that NCAA tournament. We've been talking about being effective and we haven't really been talking about technique and, so maybe some, young coaches out there or parents might be listening and hearing like, oh, technique doesn't matter. You listen to this podcast. These guys are just saying, just keep it out of the net. Why don't you kind of explain how they can kind of go hand in hand where you still can work on the technical aspect, but recognize that it's not the end all.
No, you always have to, there's a base of goalkeeper technique, period. And any goalkeeper coach is there's a certain way to do things, body weight forward, your, angles and stuff like that. There's certain things that just that's the basics, and you have to have those. Each goalkeeper is going to be different in how they handle it, their size, their athleticism, their approach to things. And you have to identify that. Not everybody, it's not a cookie cutter situation. Not everybody's going to be Schmeichel. Not everybody's going to be Neuer. Not everybody's going to be, whoever. And so you have to adapt those basics to the individual. And some people are going to do things like, whether it's the spin move to get up, or not, whether it's the K save, which, I hate. But if they have it down and the timing down, then good on them, and so on and so forth. But I think that, the basics are the most important. This isn't a free for all. We have to work on those things and ingrain the understanding of why you're doing things. Like Omar says, why did you do this? Like, why did you come through for the through ball? Why did you hold yourself up? Why did you go for 50-50? Why did you jockey them? Why did you come for that cross? Why did you box it? Why? There are reasons for things. It's not a free for all. And so when we can educate goalkeepers on why they're doing certain things and understanding the game, it's a chess game, and understanding how to manipulate everything in front of you, then that's another level.
Omar, I absolutely loved what you said, earlier, and I don't know if I, got a chance to really congratulate you on just such a brilliant thought in regards to young coaches out. No, It's true though, dude. Look. I mean, we can see your knees. You're in a very comfortable position right now. You know, you're relaxing after I give you that praise. But it's so true. And Sharpe, I'm sure that this is something that I'm sure you've worked on as a coach throughout all your years too. Is that making sure that when you give praise, that there is some sort of an element of the desire to let the goalkeeper understand why they're getting praise, rather than just giving them praise. Like it can be all, it's great to be all lovey-dovey, but if the goalkeeper doesn't learn from why that is, then they're just going to just think good, bad, but there's no such thing as good or bad. They need to know why.
I'm huge, and Will attest this. I'm huge in the sessions of always checking for understanding. Like the guys will always mistake or very good action. And Will knows it. We work on something specifically, and the lads do something really well. I get pretty fucking pumped to get into it, and I love that part of it. But I'm asking the guys, why am I like that? Why do I get? And I'm not saying you're in a great spot. It's a great save. You've done well. Will, what did you do? Whatever it looks like, Clint, what did you do? The same goes on the backside of it for the mistake. It won't be you were too far over, you were too far near post, you were too deep, you were too high. You tell me what? You tell me why. That and for me, if they understand exactly in that moment and feel in that moment what they did and didn't do, for me, you'll find that their growth becomes much quicker over that short amount of time you get to touch them. And I think like you said before, you do a lot of the individual stuff. That checking for understanding constantly, as well as being excited when they do things well and having them understand why they're doing things well, I think is a huge part to growth, because it fuels confidence very, very quickly. And excuse my French, guys, but that
no, dude.
I get very excited about.
Will, this is history right here, dude. You're literally on the first episode ever where someone's dropped an F-bomb. So congratulations there. This is the kind of excitement you get from Sharpe. Oh
yeah,
man.
Like last thing, the last thing I'll say is that I think I was talking to one of our sports performance guys, and he was telling me that there are certain days where they're going to ramp up, and it's like the professional world. So I'm still not used to that at the private stuff versus professional. Even college too, we have 3 games a week. It's just like they play a game, they have a day off. For us, it's like, okay, we have a game on a weekend.
Omar, it's pretty hard to
Tuesday.
keep this a secret if you just keep talking about what's going on.
Okay, but it's hopefully what I mean though is that speaking to him, he said, yeah, there's going to be days, Omar, where we're going to work these guys, and there's going to be days when you slow it down. And I was like, well, I'm just so used to go. And he's like, well, what I would recommend is, maybe on these certain days you add some more instruction in between your reps. And just like something as simple as that, where I was like, oh my God, that's so simple. But I understand that now, instead of me being my voice all the time, just even bring them in. And Sharpe, you did this last time I saw you train, and the guys were all coming in. They were speaking to each other. They were not, I say the word critique a lot, but they were just literally giving feedback on each other and certain things. And I was just like, why isn't Chris stepping in? Like, why is he not in the discussion? And I remember asking him on the podcast, I said, Chris, why don't you? He's like, Omar, if I'm always involved, these guys will literally think that if I'm not there, I'm paraphrasing, but if I'm not there, they can't handle it. But essentially, I'm just going to let them do them. They're going to discuss it, and they may share ideas with each other that I may not have on that moment. So I think for me, that was the understanding of damn, sometimes you say more by saying nothing. And sometimes I have kids who look at me and they just go, is he pissed? Why is he not? I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to say anything. The ball went in between your legs. What am I going to tell you in that moment that's going to either uplift you or make you even, more upset that you made the mistake? You figure it out. And then after the 4th to 5th, set, we discuss it. And I think from that moment, I've had so many aha moments of these kids coming up to me and saying, you know what? Yeah, that first rep was bad. But by the 2nd or 3rd rep, I feel like I really, really was able to understand which balls I should try and catch, which balls I should try and steer. And then when you hear that, you just go, oh my God, yes, I need you to tell me that. So it's not just my voice all the time.
Yeah. So now all the goalkeepers at UCLA understand why Saskia just stands there, just behind them.
She stands there. She stands there, and then she reveals everything she was thinking in those moments, good, bad, indifferent, on the podcast. Man, some of the things, but I'll tell you, if those girls listen to this podcast, they would probably be going straight to admissions and saying, look, Saskia is letting it all out on the podcast.
By the way, my favorite thing though is whenever Saskia starts, mentioning something on the women's national team, I'm like, oh wait, you won a World Cup, you can say that. Never mind. You can say you've been in those shoes. I have not. I'm gonna leave that alone. You can keep being opinionated on that end. But go ahead.
Come for the cross.
I know.
Sure, she shouldn't have come for the corner kick. She was nowhere near it.
I've never played against Sweden in a national team game, so I don't have the leg to stand on that you do. That's all I'm saying right there. So, oh my, I don't know where we're going with this, guys. All right, we're gonna start wrapping up right now, guys. Will, if anybody out there wants to kind of follow your journey that's going on with you now in Colorado, congrats on the move. Obviously, it seems like it's been very successful, after a fantastic career in Liga MX. Where's the best place on social media for people to check you out?
Yeah, man. All I have is Instagram. If I get on Twitter, I get ramped up and not good, man. So
and he starts dropping F-bombs like I do.
I start dropping my F-bombs on Twitter. I just have Instagram. William P. Yarbrough.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I tried to check you out on Twitter, and I realized that the last post was like in 2017. I'm like, oh, he's not going to see this. This is probably kind of a waste of time. Yeah. Sharpe, obviously, Core Goalkeeper Academy is the best place for you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Last time we did this, guys, I had a ton of questions in the inbox. So anybody watching again, please, I'll get to them. But I had 30 or 40 questions last time on the topic we were talking about. But please, if you guys have questions or want to share stories, at Core Goalkeeping Academy is the best place to get me at.
Chris, those were all my burner accounts. Just trying to follow questions. I don't want to hit you with all 30 questions at once.
Oh my gosh.
That's a nightly text from you, pal.
At Saskia_Weber on all social media platforms. Omar, what's the website for the team that you've been training with right now so that we can use that? No, I'm just totally kidding. At ProGK Academy _.
Omar, just pop the background up.
I know this is probably not good for me right now with the Colorado Rapids behind my head.
It's the best club, mate. It's the best club. It's okay.
Competition. Contact at inside18media.com if you have a guest suggestion or a topic suggestion, or at Goalkeeper Podcast on all social media platforms. Shout out to Jake Davis, goalkeeper coach over at UVA, who brought up the topic of effective goalkeeping this past week on social media. And I said, we're going to steal that for the show. And he said, go ahead. That's all the time on Inside the 18, and we are out. Later, guys.